Hello, it's Mark Kris from Memorial Sloan Kettering. Talking today about a meeting I attended here in New York City on the 11th of November. Every year, the community of physicians, NPs, PAs, and nurses that care for people with thoracic cancers come together for a one-day meeting to share our experiences and to use it as an opportunity to get lectures from people that are leading the field. The meeting is a mixture of lectures. It also includes a tumor board discussion where leaders in surgery, radiation, medical oncology, imaging talk about cases that talk about big issues in thoracic cancer, and in things like, in particular, somebody with stage 2 cancer at diagnosis. Do you operate and give an adjuvant treatment, or do you get neoadjuvant therapy? As one example. The other thing we do is we present cases. We call them our challenging cases, and we had 8 physicians this year from 8 different institutions that talked about cases that they thought brought something unique to their experience, and they thought that by sharing them we could be helpful. A couple of observations about this meeting is, number one, the amount of information that is hitting oncologists and hitting in thoracic oncologists in particular is absolutely amazing in amount. The second thing is the pace of the arrival of this information. We had multiple presentations during our meeting on November 11th from the ESMO meeting that took place about 2 weeks earlier. New information, new drugs, and lots of it. And they're trying to do our best to keep up with it, and the complexity of it. And just one example, it's not EGFR mutations now, it's which EGFR mutation. Exon 20 is different than the sensitizing ones. The rare ones are perhaps different than the normal sensitizing ones. And it's more and more that we have to know. The one thing, though, I was very struck with, and it's sort of the saving grace in all this, is this community that we have here. And I have to say that I was extremely, extremely impressed that people are absolutely committed to learn. They're absolutely committed to collaborate, both with their own fellow practitioners and also with the larger community here in New York. And they're also very willing to innovate. And what I saw in these case presentations was this really important ability that as the patient's condition changed, as our state of knowledge changed, the plan changed. People reacting to the patient's condition, people reacting to new knowledge in the field, and trying to do so. I love that word iterative. I don't know if people like that, and it maybe confuses people more than helps them, but this idea that each step informs the next one. And we saw example after example of that. The other thing that we saw was in each of these cases, their stress on listening to the patient, finding out what their priorities and wishes were, and trying to include them in their decision-making and in the final decision-making that they would present to the patient and go ahead with. And I thought that was a nice thing. The other thing that came out, and I share this as a caveat, these were big institutions, fancy databases, and 2 of the 8 cases that they presented, the data from initial molecular testing was in the medical record, but not in a place where you could easily find it. And in 2 of these 8 cases, there was useful data from molecular testing done at a different institution that got into the medical record, but got into a place where it was not readily accessible. And unfortunately, you can't rely on the patient for telling you that that is available either, because it's so complicated and it's so obtuse and totally incomprehensible to somebody just being faced with a newly diagnosed life-threatening illness and all the decisions that go along with it. The other thing that was really important about this meeting is people were very practical. There was a great lecture by Dr. Pellini from Moffitt and she is an expert in minimal residual disease testing. She knows the science. She knows the literature. She has experience in the area. But at the end of her lecture, she was able to say, by the way, none of the things I've talked about today are things that are ready to be used for individual patients. And, for people to say that with that depth of knowledge is just a really wonderful thing. And that's what people like about this meeting. So I urge you to, number one, have faith that we're getting better. Number two, know that we're surrounded by people that think like we do, that are really committed to doing the right thing for their patients first off, and for the larger community. In that by putting together all these minds, it is what we're going to do. Community is actually the answer to this, that the more we can tap into that community around us, fellow physicians, the larger scientific community, the patient community, we're going to make better decisions and ultimately do a better job. And we need their help because nobody can keep up with the pace, the amount, and the complexity of the data we're all facing now. We have to work together to do that. And I saw some great examples of this in the New York area. I don't think we're unique, but we could be a model for places that don't quite have it together as much as we do. The virtual option can help. Obviously, we have a lot of resources here, a lot of institutions, but you can get around that nowadays using the virtual option. So it was a very good day, learned a lot, very heartened by the motivation and passion of the docs around us. I hope you can do the same and see the same in your area.